Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the regular town council meeting of March 25th to order at 5 o'clock. We have the agenda in front of us. CAO Miller, are there any additions or deletions?
Yes, Your Worship, please. I'd like to add an item under closed session number 4, Town Office Future Planning under Fort Section 24 and Section 25, Disclosure harmful to economic and other interests.
Thank you. Would someone like to move to adopt the agenda as amended? Councillor Good?
So
Okay. All of those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, in front of us, we have the minutes of March 11th, regular council meeting. And you've had a chance to review it. Are there any edits? Okay, would someone here to put forward the motion to consider?
I'll move that council adopt the minutes of the March 11th, 2024 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Great, it's carried. Okay, so we are at the public hearings section. The first one, we have a public hearing for bylaw number 2149, land use bylaw number 1891, amendment, adding automotive electrical services. And Ms. Parsons, I'm to go through my list for public hearing, right? Okay, so we have need a motion to have the council open a public hearing on the matter of bylaw 2149, land use number 1891, amendment, adding automotive electrical services. Who so moves? Deputy Mayor so moves. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. I hereby declare the statutory public hearing open at 5:02 and note that this hearing is held pursuant to section 7, 8, 606 and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. And okay, I request the Director of Engineering and Infrastructure, Pat Fisher, to confirm
Confirm.
what the purpose of the public hearing is.
So the purpose is for adding electrical automotive services to the land use bylaw as a new use and adding it to the Riverfront District R1, or sorry, RD.
Thank you. When was the public hearing notice advertised?
2 weeks ago is when the advertising went out
When it was advertised
on the webpage.
on the webpage?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any written submissions that have been received and not included in the public hearing agenda package that need to be read into the record?
Not that I'm aware of. See if we received anything.
Okay, so I'll request that all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name and that presentations are to be brief and to the point. So I now call on Director Fisher to start.
How do I share this? Cheers. Perfect. I just I prepared a quick little slide deck to keep me on track for the public hearing. So for 2149, the primary purpose is to add automotive electrical services to the land use bylaw. We've added a definition for automotive electrical services. The primary activity is specialty motor vehicle services that specialize in the installation of aftermarket electrical accessories such as remote starters, anti-theft systems, stereo and audiovisual systems, and ignition interlocks. The use shall not include mechanical repairing of motor vehicles that occurs at a vehicle garage, service station, or auto body shop. This use is a subset of the typical automotive services that may include the auto body and repair shop use class. So we have received the application from a business that was looking to establish in an existing lot. It's the old Peace River Brewery building. They have opened up a business and we received notice through AVMIC, the automotive regulatory body, basically asking if they had permits in place for opening this garage. And they had not applied for a development permit, which triggered not a use thing. So the specific application is to add this service on Riverfront Development District. Riverfront Development District is basically along the berm from the Riverfront Park, just a little bit past 96th Street. I just wanted to touch on some key planning concepts with the public hearing. The land use bylaw passed by the town must list permitted and discretionary uses. If a use is not listed for a district, it is considered non-conforming. The development authority cannot approve a non-conforming use. And then statutory plans take precedence. So the IDP takes precedence, the intermunicipal development plan takes precedence over the municipal development plan, takes precedence over area structure plan, which takes precedence over a land use bylaw. And ideally, all the plans must be consistent. So if you pass something that's inconsistent, you have to go back and make everything match. The municipal development plan for the area references a report enhancing downtown renewal and tourism. Specifically, no industrial or light industrial, including garages, will be permitted in downtown. In that report, the subject property is included in the report area. The purpose of the Riverfront District is to provide land for residential, appropriate commercial and tourism opportunities, encourage redevelopment of the area. And it's also to encourage the heavier uses in that area to relocate to more appropriate areas within town. So up on the hill where there's better roads service, the lots are bigger, further away from residential use. The current bylaw, land use bylaw, defines uses for a number of auto body, automotive related services, auto body and repair shop, automobile farm equipment, sales and service, car wash, drive-through services, service station. Under the Riverfront Development District, none of those are enabled as permitted or discretionary use, which is consistent with the municipal development plan. The MDP itself, the municipal development plan, with adopting the Riverfront District, we've actually seen as a community some redevelopment there. We've added a multi-story apartment building. There's been redevelopment in one of the buildings, or two of the buildings, from the automotive use to a restaurant use. You can see kind of like the effect of the store frontage there. The property itself was constructed in 1978 as a commercial retail building. It's been approved for food service use since 2002, so there's been a number of restaurants in and out of the building. So it's not a continuing use of the original permit by approving it, so we can. It's not existing non-conformance. It includes 4 units in the building. Each has overhead doors and person doors. And there are other similar uses to the applicant in nearby buildings. I believe that they're existing non-conforming. In the public hearing report, we recommend, or we've got 3 options that are presented. Defeating the bylaw 2149, it's really not consistent with the municipal planning stuff. Municipal statutory plans. Adopt it as written, which creates not it creates a discrepancy between the statutory plans and the land use bylaw if you adopt it as written. Or adopt an amended version. Which would see, in the public hearing report, we've recommended. If you are going to pass the bylaw to expand the use to other areas so that. To areas where this use would also make sense. A recommendation, though, as administration is that council defeat a second reading for bylaw number 2049. So it is inconsistent with the direction set by the NDP and the purposes of the land use district. Questions?
Thank you. Councilors, any comments at this point in time? Councilor Ford?
So by adopting, like, this is just the public hearing portion, but by adopting this, this will cover the other businesses that are doing similar business in that area already.
It
If
would.
it's not listed as a discretionary use.
It would, I think those existing businesses are existing non-conforming, so they can continue on until they go for a change in use.
Any other questions at this point in time? Councilor Good?
I don't know if it's the right time to bring it up, but I think, I have some, I was on the council when it was changed to riverfront commercial and the reasons for it. And since then, we have seen a little bit of stuff happen along the river, but we've also seen a number of businesses not go there. I know there are empty stalls there are empty places along. And I think I'm getting the feeling that it's time to revisit that. And it makes me uncomfortable because to some extent, we had real hopes that if it was zoned riverfront commercial, that's what would go there and business would approach. They haven't to a large extent. It hasn't become like an attraction along the river, which we had kind of envisioned, where you'd have shops and maybe art galleries, etc. Which was, I mean, everybody has a dream, and that's what you're hoping to do by zoning, is achieve your dreams. But we've been looking almost 20 years since I think that was done. I think we made that in like, just take a look at the dates here. And that came out of the car wash discussion, which was in 68. That doesn't seem to be right. That date's not correct. I don't think that date's correct.
I believe the
There was
initial version
a
of that.
discussion in the 1990s. It was for a lube shop, that there was an application for a lube shop at that time that was declined. I think probably for good reasons. There's a lube shop that came up the hill, but what I'd hate to do is say no to the potential use and then shortly thereafter revisit it and come along and say yes. The next person is going to do exactly the same thing. So my feeling is that if we do the second recommendation where we allow it, we're still not changing the overall aim, if you will. Because this is not like doing engine repairs where you're gonna be revving stuff up and doing like that all the time either, from what I understand of the business, so. And I haven't taken a look at it, I haven't gone anywhere near it or anything like that. You were saying about it?
So maybe you could save some of your questions on that matter to when we're coming to voting on the bylaw. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, sorry. No, I was kind of not thinking there, but thanks for your points. Any other concerns at this point in time? Okay, Mr. Fisher, thank you. So we'll now call on those in favor of the bylaw. No, I'm calling
This is public hearing.
anybody in the audience in favor that wants to come forward and speak. If not, I'll now call on those opposed to the bylaw to come forward. If they wish. Okay, I will now call on any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. Okay. So, Mr. Fisher, any concluding statement that you would like to make?
No, I think this is probably in line with Councillor Good's comment, is that if you do pass the bylaw, we probably should reopen the municipal development plan, at least to make it consistent with this change right now.
Okay, thank you. Seeing that all presentations have been made, I will now declare the public hearing closed at 5:15. So thank you for that on that topic. Next up, we have another public hearing on bylaw 2150, the land use bylaw number 1891 amendment, adding contractors services. And Mr. Fisher, are you starting us too? Okay.
We need a motion.
Yeah, so would someone move that council open the public hearing on the matter of, on the matter of 2150, the land use bylaw 1891 amendment, adding contractor services.
So moved.
Yeah, Councillor Ford so moves at 5. Well, anyways, all those in favor? Great. Okay, I hereby declare the statutory hearing open at 5:16 and note that this hearing is held pursuant to section 7(8), 606, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. I request the Director of Infrastructure and Engineering to confirm what the purpose of the public hearing is.
Your worship, the public hearing is for reviewing relevant stuff on bylaw 2150, which is amended to the land use bylaw to add contractor services. As written in the first reading of the bylaw, it covers adding that use to 6 existing districts. The commissioner before worship.
Yes, no, I think that's it. When was the public hearing notice advertised in the local paper or media?
The advertisement went up with the advertising for at the same time as 2140. Posted on Facebook page March 11th, 18th, and scheduled for the 25th, which is today. It's also been circulated to Northern Sunrise, NDPs, and County Northern Lights. It's also published on our county webpage on March 7th.
Thank you. Are there any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package that need to be read into the minutes?
I haven't received it.
Okay, thank you. So once again, just a reminder that all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name and that the presentations are to be brief and to the point. So I will now call on Mr. Fisher, Director of Engineering and Infrastructure, to inform us.
Thank you, Your Worship. This should go better now. I'm a little bit more organized. So I just wanted to touch on again, key planning concepts for bylaw 2050. The land use bylaw must list permitted and discretionary uses. If a use is not listed for a district, it's considered non-conforming. Development authority cannot approve a non-conforming use. Statutory plans take precedence. Again, the intermunicipal development plan takes priority over or precedence over the municipal development plan. Which takes precedence over any area structure plan, and they must be consistent. So the purpose of this one, we received an application from a business owner to rezone a property to mixed industrial. That I've got the wrong sheet in this one. The property is actually the old Fountain Tire site. It's located just south of the CN tracks on the hill. The ask was basically they wanted it rezoned to permit their construction contractor business to operate out of the new location. They're operating out of a location to the east of this proposed site. As an alternative, because we don't actually list contractor services in our bylaws, permitted use or discretionary use in any district, we thought it would make more sense to bring it forward as adding contractor services to a number of uses, including the mixed commercial residential area that this property has been zoned to, the CR district. It is commonly, the contractor services use is commonly listed in many other land use bylaws. In the public hearing report, there's a list of multiple municipalities that have something similar. Development is used for the provision of building construction, landscaping, concrete, electrical excavation, whole list of other contractor services here. Does include on-site storage for materials, construction equipment, vehicles normally associated with contracting service. Sales and stuff are kind of ancillary to the use, and you would have an administrative office as part of it. But the big thing is materials on site, material storage, equipment in it. Again, we go back to the municipal development plan for the area enhancing downtown renewal and tourism. The area where this property is located is covered under that report. It's pretty explicit, no industrial or light industrial, including garages, will be permitted in downtown. The purpose of mixed commercial residential district, CR district, is to reinforce downtown as a core civic business, administrative, retail, social services, and cultural center of the town. To direct industrial developments to suitable locations, again, up onto the West Hill. The CR district is really intended to have sort of your 2-story, 3-story buildings with a commercial building or business on the bottom level and residential uses up top, apartments, condos, stuff like that is what's envisioned in that enhancing downtown renewal and tourism. The property that the applicant was specifically asking about was constructed in 1978, same vintage as the last one, coincidentally. Tire shop and warehouse and historically used as a temp tire. It's in the very edge of the downtown area. It's located near a major roadway. It's relevant for stuff that we'll discuss in later RFD here. It is adjacent to our bulk water station. Our bulk water station is located right beside this building. The SPCA on the other side, which is in the process of being redeveloped. We've got the CN railway to the north. And there are residential uses and other commercial uses also located nearby. Looking at adding contractor services for file 50. A lot of the districts that it's being added to make a lot of sense to include. And I think this is probably a miss on my part by pushing this through in this direction. When I looked at the map afterwards of all the property that would be affected by adding this as a discretionary use, it includes this entire area of downtown. It's all zoned as CR. And it's really hard to imagine a contractor services building or business operating next to some of the residential uses that are located in this area. We don't have the roads really aren't made for heavy construction traffic. There could be noise issues. And it's really not consistent with the MVP in adding that kind of use to the whole area. So in terms of options, the first one would be defeat bylaw 2150, which really doesn't add contractor services to the rest of the districts, doesn't fix any issues. Adopted as written, which could lead to unintended consequences, but does address the applicant's concerns, or adopted an amended version, which would take the contracted services out of CR district, add it to the other areas, and then look at a different way of addressing the applicant's concern, which is being proposed at another RFD later this evening. The recommendation from administration being that council give second reading to an amended version of bylaw 2150 that removes contractor services from the CR district, and then we look at fixing applicants' concerns in a different way.
Thank you. Councilors, do you have any questions for clarification? Councilor Ford?
Yeah, just for clarification, because in your briefing, you used the term rezoning a number of times. So am I correct in saying that business or that building that we're specifically speaking about is in a commercial residential land use area already? So it's not a rezone, it's the purpose of adding the term contractor services to that existing zone.
There's kind of two parts to this question, Councilor Ford. So the first one is the initial application from the business owner was to rezone this property from mixed commercial residential to mixed industrial, which doesn't actually address the concern because we don't have a listed use for contractor services anywhere, so we can't really prove it. So there's two things. So they applied for mixed industrial, which doesn't actually fix the problem because we can't prove the use if it's not listed, right? And then the second part of that is the MVP doesn't really permit. It's pretty explicit about not having any industrial uses downtown. I think that there's another way to address this. Direct control district, rezone it to a direct control district, which is an RFD later in this meeting.
Which would apply to a single property as such.
Correct.
Any other questions for clarification? Councilor Carr?
How would that, one of your comments was noise, would be an issue. How would renaming it, rezoning it, whatever it is, how would that, like, I don't understand that seems like and noise, they're next door to the SPCA, which is extremely noisy.
To your comment, I think my point about noise being a concern with contractor services is in the rest of the commercial district. So I'm just gonna share my screen here real quick again. And bring up the map for the. There, so can you all see, can you see the map? Okay, so this whole area here, this is all of downtown and it is currently zoned. There's actually a couple of zonings in there. You have the riverfront, you've got the downtown Main Street business, but all of this orange is currently zoned as mixed commercial residential. And so when I say noise as a potential concern, I don't mean particularly for that site. It could be, but it's not, it's against the CN, it's against the SPCA, there's other uses, there's the rail. I don't actually think that that is as big a concern there. But if you put it up, there's houses just up here by town hall. Those houses are also zoned mixed commercial residential. And if you had a row of houses and you stuck a construction company right in the middle and they're moving equipment or working in a yard at longer hours, that's when noise could be concerned. So that's the unintended part of moving this forward as adding this as a discretionary use to CR district contractor services, is that those kinds of conflicts could happen. And just because it's discretionary doesn't give administration the right to say no. We still have to say yes, unless we've got a very valid reason to say no. So, and it's just a lot cleaner to not include it. Does that answer your question, Councilor Carr?
Yeah, kind of.
So just for clarification.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, why would we not leave it as commercial residential and then use the change of use process rather, because then your neighbors, your residences and so on in the neighborhood would have a chance to voice their opinions and maybe have a reason to not allow it.
It's not a listed use currently.
No, but I mean, if we if we did just put it on as a listed use, then would you not deal with it as a change of use? Or does that eliminate that if you put it on there as a listed use?
If we put it on there as a listed use as permitted, the option to appeal as a resident or nearby resident is strictly limited to if we've screwed up as administration in processing that. If we made an issue in terms of it wasn't deemed complete or like, it's a really process related complaint. If it's there as discretionary, we have to tell them why, and we have to be able to give them a good reason. We can't just say no. And it does open up concerns from nearby residents, but it may or may not work out, because then we'll basically, we would have to issue it and then it would go to appeal.
Okay. For clarification,
Only for clarification, so if I understand what we're attempting to do here is, how would I put it, a more surgical process. Go through the direct control, which would allow us to deal with that one piece of property without adding something that may or may not affect all of the other districts that are zoned the same way. Am I correct? So we kind of table this effectively, defeat it, whatever. Come back with the other motion, which allows us to deal with that one piece of property directly. Like sort of come down right path here.
Kind of, but this is a different conversation with the decision that is going to be presented to you later. But it is very surgical, but it is, there's a little bit of leeway in the MPP to allow us to rezone something on fringe, like the boundary of a plan, which is where this is located. So it's a lot easier to deal with that way and put it as a direct control.
That makes sense.
CEO Miller.
If I may, the intention is administration recognizes that contracted services is a valid use that we may want to have, that we do want to have in our land use bylaw, just that definition isn't suitable for that district. So we do want to continue with the land use amendment to allow that contractor services in all other districts that we listed except the CR one, and that's why it's amended. So we removed that particular CR district out of the bylaw. So we're going to still bring that forward for second and third reading. And then, as Director Fisher said, then moving forward, we're going to bring forward a suggestion to change it to direct control that one parcel.
Can we hear that before we do the second and third reading on this one?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can, we'll be bringing it forward for first reading, and then we'll have to have a public hearing on that bylaw. So really, irrespective, or they're not mutually, however, you can hear one, you can hear the other, you can hear them at the same time, vote on them at the same time, if the council's will.
Okay. Kind of clear? Okay, Mr. Fisher, anything further at this point?
No, I hope I didn't confuse you.
It's a bit confusing.
There's like many things kind of parallel to each other at some points here. So I will now call on those in favor of the bylaw if they wish to come forward and speak to being in favor of the bylaw. Yeah, Mr. Dossler, if you just turn on the mic and say your name again and.
I think I better hand these out first here. I hope I got enough.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's so bad. My name is Rick Dossler, and I'm the one who bought Fountain Terry Building. And first of all, I'd like to say that I filled out the application under duress. It's not my idea. It is what the administration told me I had to do to zone that for me. First of all, it's already zoned commercial. I'm a commercial business. I'm not an industrial business. I do not sell products. I do not make products. All my work is for other people. So when I buy the product, it's from another company in town, and then I do what I have to do, my renovations, whatever. I am not an industrial business. So why we're talking industrial here, I don't know, because they're saying light industrial. There's no such thing. It's either industrial or you're not. And it's that simple. And I am a commercial business. Therefore, I've been running my business on that street for 15 plus years with not one person saying anything. Why? Because it's zoned for me. That's why I bought my property there to begin with. So I don't know what all this is about. To me, it seems like it's about money. And that's all, because it's not doing nothing for me. Except having me appear here and take time out of my day to explain to you and have you show you what industrial and commercial means. And none of my business is industrial. So I mean, why we're even changing anything, why I'm dishing out money to rezone something where I've been for 20 years, I don't know. But I think this is all unnecessary and a waste of everybody's time. That's what this is to me.
In the end, though, you want to,
In the end, I'm buying the shopping lane. It doesn't matter. Like really, did the town get involved when I bought the lot from the school and tell them that it wasn't zoned for me? No. Did the town jump in when I bought the lot from Nomad and say, hey, Rick, it's not zoned for you? Well, Nomad Electric's been there. Miles Bastel is there. The cabinet shop has been there. I can go on. And all this, I pointed out to Susan. I qualify under what it says there. I'm just a grad. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Just a grad to put my equipment in and fix it. That's it. I do not carry on my business, my work out of my shop. It's in people's yards, in downtown Peace River, wherever. But it is not out of my shop. I do not pour a driveway in concrete and then haul it to somebody's yard and drop it in their yard.
essentially, though, you wish to operate
I wish to
what you
run.
need to do out of the shop.
That's right. I just need to park my vehicles. I'm tired of fixing. It's been 15 years of fixing in the middle of winter outside. I'm tired of that. And I knew that if I applied for a building permit on one of my other lots, I'd have a fight with this town. So I chose not to do that because now I'm even purchasing a shop that's there and I'm having a fight. Unbelievable.
Well,
Unbelievable.
you might not have so much of a fight as,
Well, I'm here. Like none of this should be taking place, right? Like honest to God.
so basically it's part of it boils down to be part of a planning process and to make sure that we have our municipal plans in order.
But
And
you-
this has come up that there's a use that isn't defined in our plans that now,
But
it
see-
should have been, it should have been there.
Elaine, you don't have to itemize everything in the community to be in a commercial zone. You don't need to itemize it. You got the word commercial already. If you choose to let that business operate, that's when you guys say yes or no. Oh, they're polluting. No, we don't want them. Okay, it's that simple. You don't need to itemize every business. Do you itemize every house or a 2-story or a square one, a rectangle one? No, this is all for nothing. Literally nothing.
So, Mr. Dossler, I think we understand that you're definitely in favor of doing your business in
You
this.
bet.
And I think we're trying to help that.
I think so
happen.
too, but like I said, it's all unnecessary. All you gotta do is read the definition. All you guys have to do is look up commercial and what it is, and look up industrial and what they do. It's a manufacturing company, a refinery, on and on and on. All a construction guy does is go and put up a building somewhere else. It's that simple,
Okay, I think we got the point.
okay?
CAO
Yes,
Miller?
thank you, Your Worship. I just want to remind you that this is just for just demonstrating if you're in favor or not in favor.
I know, but I've been there for 20 years and this
I
is what we're
understand. I
getting,
appreciate that.
okay? I'm a half a block away, a half a block.
So, thank you, Mr.
You
Dossler.
bet.
I now call on those opposed to the bylaw.
wanted to speak for after
Oh.
Drosler.
Let's see here, I gotta look at my things here.
They may be
Okay, so you can come forth, Mr. Sissons, in favor of the bylaw. And again, just for the record,
Yeah, brief.
You reminded me twice when I first walked in, I got it late. Nice to see you again.
you as well.
It used to be Fountain Tire. It was a garage. And how much noise, there was never any complaints about Fountain. It operated there successfully since I was a kid. You probably all took your vehicles there at one time. So I'm kind of confused and overwhelmed a little bit like Rick. The reason being is I'll probably make less noise and less disturbance putting him there now than Fountain did. And like you said, he just wants to park a few trucks and be able to fix his stuff. He's not like running skill saws and anything like that. Anything that would be any more, creating more noise or nuisance over and above what was there for, how long was Fountain Tire there to you guys?
77.
So
77.
if that was okay, surely to God, we can find a way to let Rick.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm now calling those opposed to the bylaw. Now calling any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. Okay, Mr. Fisher, any concluding statement from yourself?
Your worship, I think, I just wanted to reiterate, municipal government act is pretty clear. A land use bylaw must divide municipality into districts. The number of which and the area of those council would consider appropriate or deemed necessary. But it must also, unless a district is designated as a direct control district, prescribe with respect to each district, the one or more uses of land or buildings that are permitted in the district with or without conditions. And the one or more uses of land or buildings that may be permitted in the district at the discretion of the development authority with or without conditions. The MGA is very clear. We must be specific about how the land is going to be.
Okay, so we're going to ask any other concluding statements. Okay, seeing that all presentations have been made, I will now declare the public hearing closed at 5:43. Okay, so next up on our agenda, we have a presentation and Mr. Jamie Paris, signed by Woodnard. He would come up and present.
Okay. No, I could have helped.
So if the red light's on, you just say your name, please, and start when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jamie Paris. I just want to bring to council a proposal for LED billboards in the town. And I wrote a proposal intro that you guys have a copy of, and I'll read that now. This proposal is for the placement of LED billboard screens on town right of ways in high visibility locations. The genesis of this business comes from my and other local small businesses needing to be able to draw the customer traffic coming into Peace River that's ending in on the West Hill in order for us to survive. These consumers don't know what they're missing, and we need to change that. I want to work with the town of Peace River municipally to make sure that everyone benefits as much as possible. There is also a need for more community awareness of what the town is doing to make things better through policy and events, as well as the people, happenings, and our progress as a community that we can be proud of. These screens will give the town the ability to do that with little cost. As a side note on this, like when you were reading where the bylaws were being advertised, about 2 months ago, my credit card was hacked. And it was used to buy $700 on Meta or Facebook, which I don't know what you would spend $700 on Meta. But as it happened, my Facebook was, which I don't go on very often, was stripped from me by Meta. So if the town was advertising on Facebook, I couldn't get it, and I don't have a contact to get my account back. So we'll see where that goes in the future. But this would provide an option for the town to advertise bylaws that would reach the people of the town. Unlike other mediums, a traffic count shows how many engagements you will have with a billboard advertisement. No need to tune in because you like a certain type of music, television show, and no need to purchase a paper, magazine, or a subscription. The people who see your ad are all potential customers, or in the town's case, citizens, neighbors, or possible investors in the community. The scope of the deal would be 3 to 5 screen sets and locations on the West Hill East Highway entrance and downtown at the 5-way intersection. So there's a little bit of fill in around that when it comes to billboard advertisements, there's a couple things as to where billboards end up. Generally, property is number one. The second would be engagements. The more people pass an area, the more that billboard is worth. So in essence, the billboards, if they were up on the West Hill, would be far more valuable than a billboard that was coming on the East Hill, because the traffic count is double or triple up by the intersection than it is on the East Hill. But the gist of this, or a large motivation for this project, is not necessarily just the financial ramifications of the billboard. It's that how can you get people that are coming in from the East Hill to take the one turn off into downtown if you only advertise on the West Hill, right? Where they may go and do their, like it might be supper time, and if they already get to the West Hill, they're not gonna stop at Board and Barrel or, Cat's Cafe or Boston Pizza or whatever it is, they're already there. So that in that case, the East Hill is, the entrance is basically, again, trying to funnel people into the downtown and give them that information that they would need. The other one on the 5-way traffic circle, I'm currently negotiating to purchase the property where the park was, that's been reclaimed or partially reclaimed or whatever. So that's another, point of interest where, maybe I would put a screen on my own property, but at the same time, I don't see a lot of uses for that property necessarily other than the park, which would be something I'd be interested in, like working with the town in order to put it back to the way it was, or come up with some other use for that. Again, it's working together to kind of improve things is the idea. So that comes to, the exchange of lease value for the sites that were on town property and possible an electricity supply agreement. Could be in exchange for screen time on the screens or an added screen to the screens, which I could supply, or rent on other property like the downtown property, or a straight landlord tenant agreement. I know some of this is vague, but it's because I want to work with you. I don't want to tell you how it's necessarily going to be. The one thing would be that the locations that the billboards go in the better a location, the more it's gonna do to attract people downtown. And as, you know, I'm also in discussions to buy another business that's downtown. So like I know from my businesses and other businesses that I've looked at, from 2014, 2015, your average business downtown will have lost half of their sales easily. And I've seen the financials of not just mine, I've seen others to show that. I mean, this, when, I think that there's a, when a business says, you know, we're not doing well, there's this, yeah, right, kind of thing. But I mean, it's a real thing, like the town is struggling. And I know that firsthand, so. Further on, the screens would be a 4mm high def screen, which would be 1920 lines by 960 lines of resolution. What this effectively means is that these screens are gonna look like a high definition television. When you look at them, they're not gonna look like your typical screen, kind of like dots where you see it. So when you look at it, it's gonna look a lot more natural to the surrounding area, almost as if you were looking at a building or a mural or something like that. The screens are 12.5 by 25.5. And the existing screen on the West Hill, these would be 2.5 times sharper than that. So it's very significant. And that makes them easy to read with clean, crisp, and beautiful images that are more natural to the surrounding environment. They would be fully automatic dimming, and I would like to work with the town to wrap the posts that these signs go on, much like the power stations or the post office boxes. I would wrap them, I would bear the cost of wrapping them, working with the town on the designs or whatever was decided that way. This represents an investment of $2.5 to $3.5 million and is progress for the town. This is a necessary step towards helping to save the downtown business community. As a local businessman, my motivation is making viable businesses that support, making a viable business that supports other local businesses. I continue to invest my time, effort, and money into Peace River, and I would be grateful to receive your support in this venture, as it's for all of us. And then on the following pages, there's just, I mean, these are, I mean, basically, there's the specs of the screen for you on the second page. And then some of the superimposed images, like within reason of what we think that they could look like. It is difficult to give actual scale. Like sometimes when you superimpose it, it looks bigger than it is, or sometimes from any distance it almost. But this is the idea, just to give you a picture of what it could look like. And of course, we use the Easter egg extravaganza as the ad on there, because I didn't know about it until I went on the town's website. But I mean, it's something that could be going on these screens along with any bylaw reading or whatever could be on them. And as a side note, I also think that like having, oh, I missed something, but like having local content on the screens, like so many other things, sometimes when you're doing things that are the right thing to do, they're also the right thing to do for business. The more local content that's on the screen, the more people look at them. So I think it's a win-win. The other thing, I missed this part, we're prioritizing local businesses, which at some point an out-of-town company may come and want to do this. But it's profit driven. That's why they're not here yet, right? Because they're in the bigger centers where there's more money involved, more engagements on each screen, they get more money for them. I want to designate 25% of the screens as priority for local businesses, small businesses. That doesn't mean like the local Ford dealer, not bad no Ford, but I want local small business as priority with discounts will be in effect as well. Just because that is a vibrant downtown community. I have businesses downtown. everybody does better, everybody does better together is my mentality in that. So if you have any questions.
Counselors, Counselor Ford?
Thanks for that presentation, Jamie. My one question would be, like, I don't know much about the screen that's on the West Hill now. I've seen the advertisements. Have you been in communication with transportation at all in regards to screen along the highway? Because I do know, the screen that's just down at the end of Main Street that the chamber put up, there were some issues with it being on the other side of the building because that's secondary highway 744, which is our main street. So I'm just curious if you were talking to transportation about this idea as well.
I did, and it's my experience when you ask somebody about something, whether they have jurisdiction or not, they'll give you their opinion. So they gave me their actual rules in regards to it, and as my reading, if it's within town jurisdiction and it's under 80 kilometers per hour, it's the town's call. Once you get over 80 kilometers an hour, then, and it's a highway, it ends up falling under transportation. So if they're going past that, they're reaching on what their actual power is, but by what transportation gave me. So I'm strictly proposing things inside town jurisdiction. So even the entrance sign on the East Hill, if you see from the pictures, it's becoming around that last corner. So hopefully we can attract some of the people to turn off, you know, and I'd be open to other things, like even having a sign underneath it that never changes. That's, you know, like, welcome to Peace River, take a right, you know, stuff like that, you know, that I think is valuable. We're talking about zoning in the downtown, but the reality of it is, I remember talking to you about when that was changed, the bylaws, and it's a long time ago. But, and I believe you, it was right. I believe the way it happens is different. I don't think that the only way it happens is if you have if you increase the amount of people that are here, so that the people that are running businesses that don't make sense right along the riverbank sell that property to people that'll make more money with a restaurant or whatever, and they buy cheaper property out of town that makes more sense. I think trying to do it strictly with bylaws in the end doesn't work, because the buildings could be empty, and that's even worse, especially with the crime aspect and stuff like that. We need people everywhere in the areas in the town. And so while it's a different issue, the screens to me are about trying to get more people to come into town rather than just hitting the West Hill, getting whatever fast food and Walmart and booking it out of town, because there's a lot to offer downtown, you know.
So you're, just to review then, 3 to 5 screen sets in the locations near and around town, downtown, I guess. Given priority to local businesses, and the monetary aspect would be some type of perhaps exchange lease value of the sites and electricity supply from the town for screen time. So the town would get screen time if we paid the electrical bill, kind of thing.
That's
the way it
that's
works.
one possibility, because the town could supply power cheaper than I could get it myself. Right, so like we can, looking at the screens would use on average, 250 to, at the absolute peak, crazy peak, $500 to $600 dollars a power a month. It's like way less in the winter, because it's dark. The screens are way darker in the winter, because when the screens are up to 6,000 nits, but in the summer, you know, like when it's really bright out, the screens will be bright. When it's dark out, the screens have to be turned way down or they're obnoxious. You know, and if you're making people angry, you're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish.
Councillors, any further questions here at this point in time? Councillor Good?
Just one comment. What I'm getting from this, Chair, is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that part of the reason for putting out the ideas of the exchange of power, land, whatever, all those things is your comment earlier in the presentation was putting out options there to say, I want this to work. Find out value for us, find out value for you, and come to an agreement that works within it. So if the town came up with new and novel ideas, you're open to them too.
100%.
From what I'm reading here, especially from your comment earlier, that those ideas were mainly to give us food for thought to how we can go forward if we so chose to do so.
Right, and this is, anything you bring to me, I'm gonna welcome. The thought too is that, like, I want the town to be able to take some credit for this. You know, when it happens, that they were behind it and, you know, that we're helping the downtown core, because there's only so many things that we can do. Because really, when it comes right down to it, it's like, it's the amount of customers that walk in the door of these stores, right? And it's a lot less now than it was 7 to 8 years ago. So if we could at least maximize what is still coming into town, and the only direct advertisement that you have is something that people can see when they're already there. So this is something that I'm already in this field, and it's something that I can do. And I can also do with, I mean, I've had many chances now at this point in my life to invest outside of town and do other things, and I keep putting everything back into Peace River, and I don't want to stop that. But I realize the challenges here. So this is one of the things that I've come up with as a solution, or at least a help. And even right now, it's like the advertising for the town, like for a bylaw. Like, I mean, to be able to put that on the screens, I mean, satisfy, and you know, the conditions of advertising a bylaw would be very handy, right? The egg extravaganza, I mean, the town does these things and to have people come, right? So it's like, you know, if that can go on those boards and people see that, I mean, you don't have to worry about whether your message is getting out. It'll get out, you know, and on top of that, the more the town does on the boards and the more community things it does, is no different than when these screens put the temperature on them or whatever, because people look over to see the temperature and then they see whatever is there. I had also talked to the transportation. When I did talk to them, I had talked to them about having an emergency, or they said that they didn't really have a mechanism for it. But the idea is like last summer, I think it was, when they decided to repave the road right at the end of the year, right in front of the bridge, and they cut it off for 45 minutes to an hour. These screens are real time. Do you know what I mean? So like if I have these screens, another one of the purposes is like, if we could tell people on the West Hill, or tell people coming in on the East Hill, traffic is going to be slowed or stopped for an hour and a half, we may not have 5 or 6 kilometers of cars lined up, and they may go and spend money on the East Hill or downtown or wherever they are. But I mean, this is something that can be done in live time, whereas the town office could call us and say, look, could we put this on there? And I'd be like, definitely, because we're, again, by working with people and working together towards a common goal, you're conditioning people to look at the screens for not just advertisements, but for information that, you know, is useful to them. So that's where I see that collaborative side of it as being super positive for everyone.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
So the investment of the 2.5 to 3.5 million, that would be your investment, or?
Yeah.
And then, if the town wasn't able to work with you for whatever reason, like, would it still be a viable project, or would the project, will you not be going ahead without, there's no conditions?
Well, honestly, the biggest thing the town is providing is the agreement on locations, sites, right? I still plan on doing certain things to a certain extent, but I only have access to certain properties, right? So in reality, the town is not necessary for the financial viability of the business. I think part of it is like an olive branch. So it's like, I'm doing this is going to be really good for the town. I'd like the town on board you know, like to some extent, and it's like, I'm happy to be in the background and not, you know, like, you know, we can have something on them that says Town of Peace River, I don't care. The end effect is what I'm looking for. I don't need any fanfare or anything in the, you know, it's, the end effect is what I need, and I wanna be able to, even at my own businesses, I wanna be able to put on there, and I know other people that have businesses downtown where the biggest thing is to get people to your site. So I think this is the best solution that I could possibly come up with, where you know that the people that are looking at your ad are actually possibly customers.
Okay, Councillor Scanlon.
I like the idea that, like, if you drive into the city of Grand Prairie, there's a lot of physical signs on the way in, and half of them are blown over or sun faded or wore out or whatever. And the nice thing about the digital sign, which is, you know, the one, like, they have the church that my wife runs there as secretary, is that you can continually update it. It's always fresh, it's always clean, it looks professional. And yeah, there's not like, oh, didn't that business close 6 months ago or whatever, or something like that. And the sign's still there because no one's there to deal with it, and it just becomes an eyesore. So I do really appreciate the, like you say, the real time aspect of what's on that sign is what's happening today. It's current, it's always current. And it's always clean, and the sun doesn't fade it, and all those other, you know, wonderful things. And given the cost of it, obviously someone's gonna be paying enough attention to take good, you know, darn well good care of it while it's there, as opposed to, you know, painting up some, you know, ragtag sign and leaving it for who knows how long as it slowly degrades over time. So it's a real advantage in that respect.
And you can see by the Friesen Brothers parking lot, like, you know, like the desperation, right, of all those signs that are lined up as you're exiting the parking lot there. Like, people that have businesses that are wayward or, you know, off the beaten path, are desperately trying to get attention, right? Because they have something to offer and they have a service to offer. And this is actually in a lot of ways a very tidy way to give people access. And while huge tracts of time could be expensive, there's lots of ways that I've considered splitting up the screen time. So if companies were trying to, and I've spoken with Peace River Broadcasting in this extent, right? Again, trying to bring on somebody else into the group to, you know, help make it work. But if you're a company and you're advertising for an employee, but you don't want to spend $800 a month doing that, the plan is to possibly have 6 or 8 companies' logos on the screen and their job board website, where, you know, people then know to link back to that, where you could advertise a job posting for a month on that billboard for like $150 or less. And then it becomes a really inexpensive thing. Or split screens with businesses, or even things like the farmer's market. I mean, like, if you're only doing it the one day when it's on and it's real-time advertising, I mean, it could be a very powerful thing for them and not overly expensive, right? Because it can be very targeted on top of that. So I think the biggest thing is that with whoever's doing this, if their focus is actually the town and not just trying to make money, because if you're just trying to make money, it's going to be Ford, GMC, TD Bank, like it's going to be all the big nationals. Because what happens with a lot of these signs is that if you have a certain amount of these, they get sold into a pool. And your sign is attached to, like I was earlier talking about how many people see it, engagements is what they're called. So on the West Hill, there's 27,000 vehicles a day go through that intersection, which is crazy, but they do. I mean, obviously it's a lot of people are going through more than once, but that would be 27,000 engagements for that screen. Then that gets sold into a pool. And so then when a national firm was selling an advertising campaign, they would have to supply maybe 100 million engagements. It doesn't matter where necessarily, right? They would sell those, and that screen may go into a pool of a whole bunch of other screens. And then that's where it ends up with a lot of national advertising, which then doesn't do at least what I want it to do, which is promote the local businesses to the people that are coming into town rather than the McDonald's, which is right there. Or, you know, the Ford, which is right there. And I have zero problems with those businesses. I just don't think that they need our help.
Okay, well, we're getting educated on the sign business, sounds like you have as well. So, probably what will happen is, admin will be, giving us a briefing note and, that sort of thing in the future on, this, possibility.
Okay.
But good luck with, things and, the sign on the west hill looks pretty good.
Thank you.
Okay, do people want a break or carry on? Carry on? Okay, so, the next one up then is bylaw number 2149, land use bylaw number 1891 amendment, adding automotive electrical services. And Mr. Fisher, you're going to, again, lead us through part of this.
Thank you, Your Worship. So a lot of this is just rehashing what I have presented in the public hearing, but there's a bylaw amendment, 2149 to add electrical, automotive electrical service as a listed use in our bylaw and add it to the RD district, the Riverfront Development District, as applied. So, just going through that, it's not really a consistent use in our municipal development plan, which really wants to see garages and industrial uses move out of the downtown core. And it's been a while since the MPP was evaluated. And there is a plan to, it is in our operating plan to reevaluate municipal development plan in the future, but it hasn't been done recently. We have three options in front of you for this. One is to give second reading to bylaw 2149 as presented. The advantages of that is that it does address the business owner's concerns, or the business owner's concerns or the applicant's concerns. The disadvantages are that it is not consistent with our land use bylaw, our municipal development plan, and not consistent with the Municipal Government Act. And that would create a inconsistency. The other option is to defeat bylaw 21, or defeat second reading bylaw 2049. And then the third option, if council was wanting to look at this closer and pass it, the administration would recommend expanding the number of areas that the bylaw pertains to. So amending the bylaw 2149 to include automotive services, automotive electrical services in multiple districts. That would make sense with this kind of use and be consistent across like West Hill development, the industrial areas where these buildings and businesses would make sense. And direct administration to follow up with an amendment to the municipal development plan to make this consistent. That's option 3. Our recommendation as administration is to defeat the bylaw as it's consistent with our municipal development plan. But if council wishes to proceed with passing the bylaw, should be amended and direct us to change to the.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my understanding reading the material was that there was a 2009 enhancing downtown renewal and tourism report that basically led the riverfront development concept in a way.
Yeah, I actually think that the riverfront development was a previous version to the municipal development plan prior to that report. And then the report was issued and the municipal development plan was updated. But a lot of the findings from the original municipal development plan that adopted the riverfront development are carried forward in that report.
Thank you. Okay, councilors, I'll ask that you don't repeat yourself and that you be concise.
Just one quick question. Could you, if this is passed to defeat second reading, is that business still allowed to operate with what he's doing?
No, he would have to relocate because he is a new business, right? So this is landed on our desk because he applied to the ABMIC for a permit from them. And they came to us asking if we had, or if they had complied with our land use bylaw. So he's allowed to continue operating when we sort this out, but if we defeat it, or if you defeated the motion or the second reading, then he'll have to relocate his business.
Okay, then my question is, and this is kind of what I asked in the public hearing, what about the business that is their neighbor that does similar work?
Would be an existing non-conforming use.
So they would have to relocate too.
So they would have to relocate if they changed use. But if they went to go and expand the business, do an addition, we wouldn't be allowed to approve that in that current location.
Well,
That's
But
because
they're doing the same thing.
but they're already there, right? Is that?
Yeah, they're already there. They're existing non-conforming use. So they don't need to apply for a permit because they already have one.
So I'm still not understanding this. So the business that is this applicant's neighbor does automotive electrical services in their business. They've been there for a while. And the business that made the application has been there for, I think, over a year. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
I believe they opened up at the beginning of this year or late last year.
Counselor Good?
So they're kind of the existing ones are kind of that could be a way of putting it, kind of. I know it's not legal term, but
That's not the right term anymore. The right term is existing non-conforming use.
so option 3, if we give second reading to the amended version, that would allow the business to stay, to operate. They would then be in, I'm not sure whether they would be complying or not compliant or whatever, they would not have to close down and find another location. And we would also then be directing administration to do a municipal plan amendment to take a look, sort of open up the whole thing for discussion again, am I correct?
That's correct. And we would look at amending municipal development plan to be consistent with this, the direction if you change the bylaw. And the business owner would be permitted to, like, they would be allowed to apply for a development permit.
Right.
And because it would be a use that is enabled in the district, either
Right.
as a permitted or discretionary, it would allow administration to potentially issue a permit with or without conditions.
If another such business decided that they wanted to open shop in this area, same kind of business, at that point, if we picked option 3, they would have to be accepted or approved?
They would still have to apply.
Would they be,
But we would review and if it was suitable and permitted, or we thought it was,
if it was the same as this?
we would be in a position to issue one. We don't do anything as administration. We can't unilaterally change the land use bylaws. We can't issue a permit for something that is not conforming.
Other comments, questions, councilors? Councilor Scanlon?
Your option 3, you were describing option 3 earlier in that you would want to add this automotive electrical services to other places. We would kind of do that no matter what happens today, would we not? I mean, like, you would add it to say the light industrial areas, well,
So I think a lot of the use under this particular use is covered under the existing uses that are listed. This is a specific use so that we're not opening it up for all kinds of service garages for the front.
Okay.
And all kinds of auto body shops, because there is a more intensity use that this is proposed.
I think
Other questions, comments?
Would this be the time to make a motion for second reading?
Whichever motion you would like to do, sure.
I'll move the council provide second reading to an amended version of bylaw 2149, which adds automotive electrical services to the land use bylaw and allows the use of several land use districts, and also direct administration to prepare a municipal development plan amendment to be presented alongside bylaw 2149.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, then, all those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. You now have even more work to do. The next one up is bylaw number 2150, land use bylaw number 1891, amendment adding contractor services. And I just wanted to ask, because the next one up is on kind of the same topic, but changes something. Is there one or the other first doesn't really matter? Or is it clear if we do something?
Your worship, I believe Councillor Carr wished to hear 2152 before discussing 2150 again, so that there was additional information. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can do that then. So we're going to be looking at bylaw number 2152, land use bylaw number 1891 amendment, redistricting plan 7823-128, lot 15, lot 11. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, your worship. So, in the public hearing, I had mentioned that there might be a more precise way to move forward at this subject property. Administration recognizes that, the applicant has run a business in the area, and that the business he is proposing to run out of the subject site is not any more intensive than our bulk water station, which is literally right next door. The location is pretty consistent with already being exposed to noise with CN to the north, and SPACA site to the east of the proposed property. So what's on the table, what's not on the table yet, but what is in front of you and being asked is whether or not you would like to give first reading to a bylaw that rezones that property to a direct control district. Under the MGA, a direct control district doesn't have to have particular uses assigned to it. And it can basically be brought forward when we receive a development permit application to council for a decision. That council may or may not, or add conditions or approve it with or without conditions, whether they reject it. Under the MVP, we're allowed to make changes along the boundaries of the plan without amending the MVP. It's a little easier administrative process to undertake. So in this case, the property is along the boundary between the mixed commercial residential use and the use on the other side of the highway is a light industrial use. So by rezoning it as direct control, which we do under without making an amendment, we still avoid the conflict that we created by rezoning that property to industrial, because if we rezoned it to industrial property, we would still have a conflict with the rest of the MVP that says more industrial. So this is a solution that could be put on the table, basically giving first reading to bylaw 2152 that would rezone that subject property to direct control allow the applicant or the business owner to come forward with development permit application. Create that application, get approved, and the decision for that would come to council.
So questions, discussion, councilors, Councilor Good and Councilor Scantling.
So part of the reason for following this is, sort of going off Mr. Dostal's comments about, wasting time, et cetera, so forth and so on, is that, well, he may feel that he has to jump through hoops to get where he'd like to go. Municipalities are also legislated to jump through certain hoops to get where we want to go. We can't just ignore those rules with impunity and do what we like to do. If we wanted to have the zone changed and we have the building gilded in gold, we don't have that option under the legislation to do it like tonight. Am I correct? So there are hoops that we have to jump through to do it properly. One of them would be, for example, to make the motion that sort of suggests you to go to direct control, do first reading on that, go through those hoops, at which point we can then make a decision if that's where we want to end up.
Correct, yeah, and for example, passing this, or making this amendment, like through, making bylaw 2150 amendment 2152, you would give first reading, and then, we're statutorily required to hold a public hearing. And then we have to advertise that for our advertising bylaw, so there's a time limit there that we have to meet, for the public hearing. We have to do the public hearing, we have to close it, and then you would have to give it second and third reading. If you don't have that public hearing, you can't. Really shouldn't do second or third reading. And you get challenged because you didn't follow the process. The process is right there. So this is a way to move things forward. I understand it's cumbersome for business owner. This is a way to move his request to keep this there forward and a way that sort of makes sense.
Thank you, Councilor Scantling.
In a way, it makes a lot of sense in that one exact particular location, in that it's adjacent to even our bulk water fill. So there's already heavier traffic, truck traffic. There's already kind of a noise, situation in that one particular spot. It is a very, from one of the better words, special lot, kind of thing. I noticed on the definition for contractor services, it said paving company. So it would, I can see why you want to do what you're doing, because if somebody moved into, say, the middle of that, we'll call it the co-op neighborhood. I think that's sort of a common phrase for it. If someone moved into the middle of that and put a paving company in there, which would be allowed if we did bylaw 2150 unadulterated, that I think people living there would find that extremely inappropriate and very disrupting and probably quite smelly. So there would be all kinds of, issues with that, but good on you for finding a solution for this one particular lot.
Thank you. Any other comments, councilors? Anybody that hasn't commented? Would someone care to put forth a motion on this particular one?
Sure. I'll move that council give first reading to bylaw number 2152, which amends land use bylaw number 1891 by redistricting Plan 7823128, Block 15, Lot 11, from mixed commercial residential to direct control.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions from councilors? All those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Okay, so now we're going to go back to, or we're going to go on to bylaw 2150, land use bylaw number 1891 amendment, adding contractor services.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know if you want me to rehash the whole public hearing bit on this one, but basically we came forward with an application to rezone property. We thought it would be a useful endeavor to add a use and add under the mixed commercial residential use, the contractor services, added as a discretionary use. And when I was reviewing the public hearing documents late last week, I realized that I had maybe made an error in applying it to that district, and it looked like it could create some unintended consequences. We don't really want some of the contractor services sitting right up against the house, necessarily in that mixed commercial residential neighborhood. So, not all of the roads are designed appropriately to deal with heavier traffic. The property that the applicant purchased and applied about is adjacent to an arterial road. It is a heavier road. When we had a heavy vehicle gets stuck in the fall, that was the road that we used to direct them to get out of the downtown area. But elsewhere in the CR district, that's not necessarily the case. So just to avoid creating some further issues, my recommendation would be to amend bylaw 2150 to not include contractor services in the CR district, but add it to the other remaining 5 districts. However, they're presented, there's 2 discretionary and 3 permitted uses, I believe. That would be my recommendation. I think adding contractor services is a thing that makes sense. It is currently not included in our land use bylaw, and as discussed earlier, if it's not listed, we can't really approve a comment for it. So your options are defeat the bylaw, which I don't think helps anybody. Give second reading to bylaw 2150 as written, which could lead to some unintended consequences, or give second reading to an amended bylaw 2050.
Thank you. Councillor Good, you have a comment?
Just to be clear, if we give second reading to bylaw 2150 as amended, adding contractor services, that doesn't change anything in the co-op area. It does change it in some of the other areas we're talking about. Am I correct?
Correct. It adds it to the mixed use industrial area. So the area north of the highway where we have.
Where all kinds of stuff like that exists already.
Yep.
Okay.
And would add it to the commercial uses up on the West Hill in various capacities. There's a couple where I think it's discretionary instead of permitted. It does add it there, and again, those businesses exist up there. There's lots of heavy construction.
That would be by stating the 5 districts.
Any other comments on this one? Questions? Okay, sorry, Councillor Good, you have a,
This will make a motion.
sounds good.
The council gives second reading to bylaw 2150 as amended, adding contractor services as a use class and enabling that use in 5 districts of the land use bylaw.
Thank you. We're aware of the motion at this point in time. Any clarification needed? All of those in favor of the motion? It is carried. So the go forward is now we'll go into, we'll have third reading still to come. Yeah, and we'll have, on the other one, we're going to have second reading still to come. Yeah. Okay, and
Public hearing for 2052.
And so that whole process could take estimated time frame of,
Probably a month, your worship.
thank you, but thank you. Okay, Mr. Fisher.
So we still have to get third reading.
Yes, sir. Reading.
I don't think so.
We
We've already done reading now.
could, we've done first reading. This is second. We can do 2 and 3 together. We can't go do 1, 2, and 3 together without a unanimous vote, if I'm correct.
Public hearing is what
The public hearing's been.
Are we okay to do third readings?
Sorry, if you want to, we weren't looking just because it was as amended, so sometimes it's nice to give time in between that. For members of the public, et cetera, to be able to look at it and give further consideration to it before slowly adopting, but if council's comfortable and wants to, we can do third.
we
What
were,
if a motion is third reading is, a motion is made, well, sorry, what if a motion is made for third reading and it doesn't pass, can it still come back at a later date? No, then it's gone.
So if we don't do it though, the entire property, the decision's been made, it's direct control. Motion was made.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So
We have.
But no one has to do anything, no one has to move, stop, whatever, every business continues, everything carries on as it goes. And not to make you feel bad about yourself, but if we had done 1, 2, and 3 on the first day that you brought it, we would have had contractor services in all of, you know, so I think it is a good idea to just be cool, everything's gonna happen,
So
that
we
would be
can't,
my feeling.
thank you. So we can't usually do 3 readings like that when we have a public hearing because there needs to be opportunity in between times for public input, basically. So, okay, so I think we're set on a go forward then. And we're going on to unfinished business that we don't have any of. And now we're on to new business. And Director Bell, capital project update, the regional pool, or Peace Regional Pool hot tub replacement.
Thank you, council. The report before you this evening is a briefing note, letting council know of the progress of this particular capital project. We did sort of hold up the tendering of the project while we were confirming a condition assessment report, just to reaffirm that there isn't anything else within the structure. And I believe we've talked to council about this back in the August meeting, to ensure there's nothing else within the structure that we were of great concern that would cause us to pause the project indefinitely. There is nothing of that situation. We have a very good detailed report that I'll bring forward to council at a later date. We just have a draft of the report, not a final version. So the design is tender ready. We're just waiting on AHS's thumbs up to allow us to proceed with tendering, and they're okay with the design and don't have any concerns. If there are any, then we'll have to make some adjustments, but we're hoping to have tender documents up and for public proposals very soon.
How long has it been in AHS's hands waiting for stuff?
Probably, that I don't know definitively. I'm not sure when the engineering company had provided that information to them.
I would suggest that it might be time to, I don't know, speak to the engineering company if they're the ones that translate things to AHS or something. Because if they hold up too long, then they're tendering.
Yep. And tendering will take some time because this is a significant and unique project. So we will be posting this for a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks. We don't want to rush it. We want to get as many proposals as possible.
Could we, I'm just asking, could we tender with a caveat, like that, sort of like with, like when you're buying a house?
No,
Okay.
it's not recommended from the engineering. I asked a very similar question.
Oh, that's good. Thanks.
Any other questions? So we can report to our general public that the hot tub is on its way pending AHS approval of plans and tendering process.
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think we'll do the motion at the end of all of these. So thank you, Director Bell. And
Your
you're
worship,
still
you
here.
wouldn't mind actually making a motion because the next report is a very different.
Oh, okay. So we'll do it separately then. Would someone bring forth a motion to accept the capital project update Peace Regional hot tub, pool hot tub replacement for information? Councillor Carr so moves. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. And so Director Bell, onwards now to log cabin.
Thank you, your worship. This particular item is in regards to the log cabin that's located at 1006 96th Avenue. Just down the street and next to or kitty corner to Peace Valley Inns and Smitty's area. As far as we know, and I did scour through our filing and, almost got it confused with the RCMP Centennial Cabin that was built at the museum. Different log cabin. Didn't want to dispose of that item. The museum would not have been happy with me. This particular structure, as far as we know, it was a project by, I believe, the college, built in approximately 1980s. That is as much as we really know about the actual building. I did confirm we did own it. But it is unknown how the town became owner of that structure. So there's just not a lot of detail unless I was going to go down into some of the dusty files in the basement somewhere. Over the last few years, approximately last 3 to 4 years, we're seeing some significant additional friendly feats coming through the building, getting in crevices, birds, bugs and the like. We've done what we could to sort of plug all the holes, but we've done a much more formal assessment by a logging frame, excuse me, framing a timber, oh, that should be timber, not timer, timber frame contractor, Mossy Ridge Log Works. They came and did a full assessment of the logs. This is their area of expertise. Unfortunately, the base logs are rotting. Because there's, as far as we know, because again, we don't have any design or plans in our records, it's sitting on the foundation directly on the concrete and causing moisture wicking into the logs. The logs themselves, there's quite a lot of spots where it needs some remediation, some patching. The entire structure needs to be what they call soda blasting. And restained, and then rechinking of the entire building. I don't know that it was ever formally chinked, which is different than caulking. It looks like it's always been, the logs have been more of a caulking product than a formal chinking processes, which is quite different from each other. They provided an estimate based on what they could see of what the cost to remediate, including everything that I just mentioned. Also having to lift the structure, remove the rotten logs that cannot be remediated, and building a new sort of pony wall or foundation wall that the building would then sit down back onto, and keeping the logs, the remainder of the logs away from the moisture. Their estimate for that was 100,000. With the caveat that's based on what they could see, and the unknowns are just that, they're unknown. The roof was also inspected by Northern Lights Roof Inspecting Company or consultant. He provided a review and an estimate for replacement of the cedar shake. So the $50,000 estimate is the cedar product. If we chose something of a different product, hence the range of amounts for replacement from 30,000 to 50,000. If council chooses that there be a desire to repair the cabin, a capital project would need to be put in place, and we are giving you an estimate of 150 to 200,000 for those question marks. Maybe it's 150 to 175, but still there's a lot of question marks once we get into lifting the building. If there's other issues, we would need the budget accordingly. If council choose to dispose of the cabin, there is an option for a public sale. It has not received a formal market assessment. So we give you the assessed value for taxes and the insured value, which are very different numbers in our books, but it provides you with some base information that you can utilize. We also received a quote from McColeman and Sons. They're in the community right now, doing some demolishing of the formerly known as the Oreo Cookie School in my house. So they provided us with a range of 74,300 for demolition, if that was also an option that council wanted to look at. Also a reminder to council, the building is currently being leased for the use of the Chamber of Commerce, the Peace River Region and Chamber of Commerce. And that lease currently is for utility expenses, so it's a cost recovery for only the utility costs. So before council are two options. Directing administration to proceed with the development of a capital project. We would suggest not until the 2025 capital budget process, as we've set our 2024 capital budgets to date. However, council could choose to speed that up and add a new capital project for 2024. This particular option, as mentioned, Chamber of Commerce is currently within the facility. Disadvantage of this is that it really could be an expensive project, and we're not confident that the value of the dollar is there on this particular structure. Option 2 is dispose of the asset. First process suggested is by sale, offering up the structure sort of an as-is, lift and take it with you public process. We'll find a different words than those, but it would be up for public sale, and administration would recommend a reclaiming of the site for a green space, taking out the concrete foundation. We believe it's just a slab on grade, capping some of the utilities are on site. We could add some grass or sod or trees or shrubs, sort of that part is there's lots of options, or there's just grass and a picnic table. So there's a breadth of options in that area. The advantage of this option allows for efficiency of tax dollars. We would look to see minimum bids for some cost recovery of the town's expense related to the base demolition of the slab only, and maybe some of the disconnection fees. So significant, not significant dollars in terms of the reclaiming of the site. And that could be offset by the possible sale of the rest of the structure. This option also doesn't require full demolition costs, reinstates a green space at the entrance to the downtown after the loss of the Imperial location. And the location is currently zoned as community development, so it's very appropriate to have a green space as per the current zoning. Disadvantage of this option, it does place the Chamber of Commerce in a position where they have to look to another site within the downtown or the community for a lease space. We do have a 4-month termination clause within the current lease, and that's in overholding right now. So there is an ability to trigger that clause if council does make the choice of the option 2. And the Chamber of Commerce have been made aware of the discussion that was being presented to council this evening. There are financial implications to option 2, as I mentioned, some costs around demolition, but potentially some of those costs can be offset by the sale of the structure. This does remove an asset from the town's asset listing or liability, as it were, depends on the accountant's perspective on it. Yeah, that sort of sums up if council has any questions. Councilor Scanlon?
Would there be possibility, like with the town, I guess, would we be open to somebody bidding on that site in total as like, say, commercial use idea? Like, would that be entertained?
That
I don't know, like, you never know. We just had someone here looking at property in that end of town, so.
absolutely, yeah. We hadn't discussed it, but I'm sure we could have that conversation. It is zoned community development, so that is something we'd have to consider or look at rezoning.
Yeah, okay.
Councilors, other. Councilor Ford.
You're kind of off the topic of the building, but if that land does go to like a park or green space, what would happen, or would you be refurbishing that water fountain that's there? That you were talking about termination of hookups?
That particular water fountain doesn't meet any basic health code
That's
requirements around, but we could look at adding a water fountain that is more modern and would meet some basic
So we drink.
health code requirements. Yes.
It's the signage on the water fountain.
Yeah.
We can remove the sign and put it on a new fountain.
It's
So-
like Hotel California. If you drink out of it, you'll never leave.
Let's not go that far, but it's a
Okay.
possibility. We could add any sort of amenity. So when I talk about capping off, that means they're still there. And we can always add back in, or as part of the redevelopment plan, we could add it right away. Limitation may only be funding available to this particular calendar year, if we proceed within this calendar.
Could you
Oh,
just,
Winthrop, yes.
could you
Sure.
just go over the part about publicly selling? It would be, you mentioned subject to lowest bid of some sort.
So we would need to, administration would need to look at a formal process around that. I have not been in a situation where we've put up a building for public sale. We've done the Alexandria Rec Center, but that was a nonprofit transfer situation for $1. So we would look at least a minimum bid process. And we'd have to flush out the details a little bit more. I don't have a lot of detail for you this evening on that particular item.
Thank you. Councilors, other questions? Anyone here to put forward a motion on this matter? I'll support.
Yes, thank you, your worship. I would, put a motion on the floor that council direct administration to publicly sell the log cabin located at 10006 96th Avenue, Peace River, and that council direct administration to reclaim the location of the same address as a public green space following the removal of the building.
Councilors, any questions to clarify? Otherwise? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? It is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Okay, next up, it's apparently me, and I'm updating council on nuclear power plant discussions. So as I had mentioned at another council meeting, this council and 3 or 4 other councils around the area, as well as chambers of commerce, were approached by a nuclear energy company, indicating that they were perhaps interested in developing a nuclear plant in our area. And they were in the possibilities phase. They still had lots of regulations and stuff to go through. So just an update, there were, let's see, 3 of our surrounding counties, Reeves, met with the MLAs, some MLAs at RMA, which is their annual spring conference. They met with Dan Williams and Minister Newdorf, who is the Utilities and Affordability Minister. They had hoped to meet with Minister Jean, who has to do with Northern Alberta more so, energy. Not quite sure what his title is anymore. Anyways, he was unable to attend, so they met with the other ones and various staffs from those offices just to get some idea what the provincial government was thinking about all this nuclear business. And so they were told that the government is completely supportive of nuclear projects in the province. The province has already been approached by 4 or 5 proponents, including the same ones as here, and that these 4 or 5 groups are all proposing conventional nuclear power plants and are looking for the province to backstop their proposals with financial considerations. So the province says that they need to come up with regulatory frameworks to allow nuclear power to exist and access the power grid. They need to do this in conjunction with the federal government so that all regulatory issues are covered. There is some concern that the influx of power generated from nuclear could possibly put other power producers at risk, at financial risk. If the province does backstop any of these proponents, it will ultimately decide where the nuclear facility will be placed. So the ultimate approvals will come from the province and the federal governments. The local municipalities do not have much say at all in this. At most, we might be consulted, but not to a major extent. We would be part of the consulting process. Other municipalities in the province are also lobbying the nuclear for their areas. Greenview has talked to the province and Birch Hills are also advocating. But for the SMR world, small nuclear reactor world, rather than the conventional nuclear. So as well, the counties of Lesser Slave River and Big Lakes have also expressed an interest in nuclear development within their municipalities. And these are all within northern Alberta. So the province is going to start a campaign to educate the public on the nuclear power generation in an attempt to make it more socially acceptable and just more education in general. So that is the latest we've had in terms of any conversations with anyone. So this was with the province. And I guess we await details and see. As mentioned before, it's obviously something that would produce a lot of jobs in our area if it was to come into fruition. And I think people are probably learning a lot more about nuclear over the last few years as different power requirements have been, come into being, including electric cars, et cetera, et cetera. So does anybody have any questions on that? I wasn't able to attend the meeting, so that's a summary of what was given. Maybe someone would then move the council accept the verbal update regarding nuclear power plant discussions for information. I can do that. Yep. So, that probably doesn't.
Here, I'll move mine over.
Okay, well, I'll make that motion.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Shannon has moved the council accept the verbal update regarding nuclear power plant discussions for information. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, council event attendance reports. First one is Deputy Mayor Shannon. Anything you want to highlight on yours?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Next is the 2023 Peace Regional Waste Management Company accomplishments. Deputy Mayor Shannon. Anything there that you want to? Oops.
No, there is nothing that I'll add, unless someone has any questions from the public or here.
No, it's just us again.
Okay, next up, Peace River Aboriginal Interagency Committee meeting, and that would be myself. This is the February 20th minutes, and the group is going along with powwow planning and various other things, including another vision quest happening in May 13th through 19th, 2024. And this is out in sort of the Dixonville area that it happens. And Dennis Whitford, some of you know him, is the leader of that. Any questions on that from people's? Okay, next one up, we have draft Peace River Library Board special meeting minutes of March 5th. Councillor Boychuk is not here to talk about this one, but anybody have any questions we could pass along to him? No, we're good. North Peace Housing Foundation meeting, board meeting synopsis, Councillor Carr.
Well, the only thing that was really outstanding in my mind was we had a gentleman named Eric Weiss come up and do an analysis on what sort of housing was needed in the region. And from what he came up with, short of us getting a nuclear plant, is he said, stick with the status quo.
So that has implications for some of the development on the West Hill?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions of Councillor Carr? Okay, then, next one up, draft Economic Development Committee meeting minutes of March 12th, Deputy Mayor Shannon.
I was actually not present at that meeting, I was away.
Okay, then next one up is the draft RCMP Peace Regional Community Advisory Committee meeting minutes, March 20th, Council Board.
Yeah, just a couple things coming out of that meeting on one of the reports. There has been a huge theft of vehicles in the area. And over 98% of those vehicle thefts were simply because doors were unlocked, vehicles had keys left in them, and or vehicles left running with keys in them. On the second thing I'd like to bring up, the Lock or Lose It program is going to be starting on April the 6th. The pamphlets or handouts are currently in editing and will be going to print. This year, we're printing 1,200 of them, with a bunch of those handouts going directly to the schools, even in the elementary schools, so that the kids can take those handouts home to their parents. And from a suggestion from Director Bell, we're starting on April the 6th in the parking lots at the Baytex and the swimming pool, just because our provincials for junior D hockey are happening. We're gonna have a lot of people from all over the province there, so we will be starting. We already have the volunteers lined up, and we'll be commencing that on the 6th and running it through until the snow flies this coming fall.
Right. Any questions of Councillor Ford? Okay, then would someone move that council accept reports 9-1 through 9-7 for information? Councillor Good.
I'll move the council accept reports 9-1 and 9-7 for information.
Thank you. All those in favor? Great, it's carried. Next up, section 10, information, council information packages of just March 8th. So I have a couple of things here. Let's get my. So, first up, I would like to draw our attention to item 2 of incoming correspondence. We have our CAO, Barb Miller, who is being recognized with her for her association, which is the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, CAMA, for 15 years of service. And CAMA is dedicated to honoring and celebrating the dedication of our members to public service and municipal management, a cornerstone of the CAMA organization. These awards are based on the duration of full-time paid employment in municipal government, specifically in management roles such as Chief Administrative Officer or those reporting directly to them. Recognition is granted at the 10-year mark and subsequently in 5 years. And this year, it is our CAMA and the council privilege to acknowledge the commitment of our CAO, Barb Miller, for her remarkable 15 years of service in municipal government management roles. Barbara's dedication to her role has undoubtedly contributed to the advancement of our municipality, and we're changing right along as we think about things, and we're pleased to recognize her achievements. So her recognition pin has been mailed to her. And we would, as a council, like to congratulate Barb and thank you for your past service and thank you for your present service as a CAO.
Thank you.
Speech.
I think my hair is really nice.
Did
I
you?
didn't bring it actually.
Okay, so that would be great. Councilors, did you pick up any things that you would like to bring forth to comment about in the correspondence? I see I'm down on the invitations. Northern Lakes College workshop. There was an invitation that went out from the Committee of Community Economic or Educational Committees at Northern Lakes College. Craig Ellis is doing a workshop tomorrow afternoon, and it was free. And I think Deputy Mayor Shannon passed it along to economic development people and Chamber of Commerce. So hopefully a few people will turn out for that. And we'll see what happens. It's on starting a business and some of the pitfalls, I think. Now, the other one I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, the Peace River Air Cadets year-end ceremony. It's June 5th, and they have sent an invitation to council inviting us to their annual year end. So June 5th, those of you that are going to FCM, you might be on the road on June 5th. So is there anybody who could maybe put this in their calendar and go to the ceremony at 6 p.m. at TA Norris on June 5th?
Would be able to,
You might go?
yeah, probably.
Are you going to FCM? You're not?
Oh, this is FCM, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're there, right?
Yeah.
You might still be here, Brad, if Councillor Clark can't go. Okay, so Councillor Clark, if you can't, maybe connect with Councillor Ford and just see, it's nice to go and recognize the,
Yeah, I really wanted to go last week.
yeah. They do a lot of work, a lot of practice to get where they.
Great club.
Mhm. Okay,
I believe they're also looking for board members.
okay. Step into that role too. Okay, anything, anybody else would like to, bring up about, or on the communications package? Councilor Ford?
Yes, just to reiterate that we did get the letter from the seniors club safety concerns, and that the town of Peace River did reply to the seniors club with a letter with the mayor's signature.
Okay, next up, someone want to move that council accept item 10.1 for information. Councilor Carso moves, all those in favor? Great, it is carried. Any notices of motion?
I have none, your worship.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the public?
In regards to everything?
This one, I think it's, items at the meeting.
Anything that was brought up?
Yeah, yeah.
Back on something.
Is that a Christmas tie? Ted, I cannot tell from here. Pardon me, Mr. Sis.
I got a cheap tie clip.
Oh, okay.
I have to show you.
Just, we missed you around Christmas, so I thought if you wore a Christmas tie, that would be very appropriate.
Well, if I was a little healthier, I missed you guys too.
Well, good to see you back in your feet, sir.
I'm more happy about it than you.
I'm sure you are, yes.
If you just want to click the microphone there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also great, Shelley, to see you, and I was so delighted because I saw you at the seniors, and I'm so happy about your battle and recovery. It's what I always wanted, so it's great. You're welcome.
Yeah, not as happy as you are.
That's what's going around. I was curious about if the openness of some of the discussions, like, we're not mentioning which nuclear companies are approaching, because we all know last time the fight that took place between the residents of this region led by famous old school teacher, Matt Boucher.
So I can tell you, in my report previously, Mr. Sissons, it was Energy Alberta.
Okay, thanks. But they're not, are they actually a nuclear power company, or are they?
I don't know, and there was a representative from Candu Energy as well.
Okay, and then as last time, it was a company called Bruce Power, I
Right.
believe it was. That and not being able to have the assistance of being able to see a screen, I would appreciate. And maybe you might generate more people that will come. You know, 'cause And I appreciate not being censured for stepping around the edge there so I could see when the map was up, what was actually being discussed. And some of the discussions, in regards to Mr. Fisher's presentation, not being here every time, so not as familiar with some of the locations. Is there a legal reason why we can't say, well, it's this building besides such and such and that one, so that it's not described in such a vague way, so a person can get a better understanding of what building we're actually talking about and where it is, because it was made pretty clear when we're talking about the old Fountain Tire. That was easy to understand, but some of the other ones, it was hard to follow because it wasn't specifically mentioned, like, well, where is he exactly talking about? It was a little on the vague side for me, but I may not have as good a grasp on some of this stuff as quick as some of yourselves. So I would just ask that maybe in future it might help, and for anybody else that's listening in and stuff, it would be a little less vague. And the other part, when it's, well, you could do this, this, and this, and but there's this other possible remedy. But then how do a person consider if that's good? Well, there's something, but you don't hear what it is. That's also more vagary than, you know me, I'm upfront, say what it is, and possibly overly so, but I found that that was also vague, that it was hard to follow at some points if you're not there, you know, on a full-time basis. That's it, I'm done.
Well, I'll let you know that we are working on our technology, but the budget says what the budget says sometimes on that aspect. I think, people out in the virtual land that might be listening, they also have some issues with our technology, but we're working as best we can on it.
Well, sometimes it can be expensive. There's a lot of different choices and you choose the wrong one, so it's not as easy as people think, that's for sure. And budgetary constraints also. And when we speak of virtual presence of other individuals in town possibly watching this proceeding from their residence, there's a lot of websites and everything that they know. When you watch YouTube presenters such as Puddin's Fab Shop or various other endeavors that are popular, he can report how many people. They have a way of telling by going and looking at the website of how many people are actually watching his feed. You know, do we ever get a report on numbers of, is there 50 people in town watching this council meeting right now, or 5 or 4?
So, Mr. Sisson, Ms. Parsons will maybe give you an answer.
We have
Please.
4 watching right now and we had 10 watching earlier.
Okay, and it just presents itself as go along, so everybody on council, I take it, can see how many people are watching their particular performance that night.
Our acting is pretty good sometimes, but.
Well, I hope it doesn't create too much pressure when the numbers start to go up.
I don't.
They stay consistently, well, that is saddening and disappointing to me. I think it doesn't serve our citizens well to not pay more attention to the business of how our town gets run. And a lot of people don't have enough appreciation for that and how much effort council and staff have to put in to actually run things. Nobody, it's sad that not as many people pay attention as used to.
So thank you and take care.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, Ted.
Thanks, you guys too.
Glad to hear your health is much, much better.
Wow, you know I'm a stubborn son of a bitch.
Okay, counselors, what would you consider our key communication items tonight?
The log cabin.
Log cabin.
Log cabin, that's historic.
Maybe it'll be funny.
I'm thinking about.
I'm gonna say hot tub update, because how would I not? The bylaws. We found our way through several tonight, so. That, I think we should also, maybe, remind ourselves, as several people have mentioned, the, provincial hockey tournament starting
Yeah.
on the third. Okay, the third, next week already. Okay, anything further? Okay, how about we take a 5-minute break, then we'll come back and go into closed.
The days are getting longer, I'm getting happier by the minute.
Sorry, and it's getting warmer.
Oh.
I guess next week we're not even supposed to be below 0, really.
Really?
when we're ready.
Or, oh, whatever. Yeah. We're good.
We're good. Okay, would someone please move us into closed? Councillor Ford moves us into closed at 7:21. All those in favor?